All right, guys. Finally, over a year and a half over this ridiculous drama of DNA breaking down in water, Fiona finally admits that I'm right about DNA breaking down to its constituent parts. Now, just as so that we can backtrack this a little bit, over about a year and a half ago or so, there were some interactions going on between DNA breaking down to its constituent parts. Okay, turn that down so we don't hear that feedback anymore. So a year and a half ago, I brought up this situation with DNA in water, how it would break down to its constituent parts. I'm going to screen share this so that we can see this, so we have an understanding of the history of what happened. Okay. A year and a half ago, I made this comment. Well, when I'm talking about breaking down to its constituent parts, I am not referring to dissolving. But I will say that DNA does break apart as well within water, just not like what I'm referring to. I'm talking about a hydrolysis reaction, which is different. But if you're just going to be playing semantics, technically you are wrong, because when something dissolves, it comes apart in a specific way, depending on the compound. Ionic compounds break apart by the individual sodium chlorides atoms coming apart, and the covalent compounds like DNA come apart, I suspect, by breaking down to the individual monomers that make it up. That last part was incorrect, but we'll hit on that a little bit later on because Hogtie said something that we need to jump back to. But very clearly, I was drawing a distinction between the scientific understanding of what happens when something is breaking down to its constituent parts as a hydrolysis reaction, but the situation of breaking down and how it could be described as breaking down, that was a word game, basically. There were two different topics that we've been talking about over the last year. Now, I went back and asked her just recently, right? Here's what she said, basically. I just flat out asked her, look, does DNA break down to its constituent parts? I said, if Fiona, yourself, and Sam can acknowledge that DNA breaks down and water into its constituent parts by hydrolysis reactions, we can then move forward. I'm not even asking you to agree with my assessment on abiogenesis. I then said, can you guys acknowledge that depending on the temperature, it also influences how long the bonds will last in water? All I need is a yes or no answer to each. Now, I left this message earlier today, and I heard them talking about it a little bit in a Hangout today, and they were avoiding the question. They're very clearly avoiding the question because it was just a direct question to them. She then backtracks, and she tells me this. That is what I've been telling you the whole time. So she acknowledges that what I've been saying is the truth. She tells me, yes, this is what basically happens. And down here, she says it, yes, it breaks down by hydrolysis reaction. Dissolving doesn't involve a hydrolysis reaction when it comes to DNA. Well, you just saw the comment that I left. This was a year ago, before all this nonsense was even brought up that they're trying to talk about now. Well, when I'm talking about breaking down to constituent parts, I'm not referring to dissolving, but I will say DNA does break apart as well within water. She's trying to stick to that little issue of dissolving because there was a period of time, a few months after this actually happened, when I mentioned the hydrolysis reaction, where things segued into a semantical game over breaking down and dissolving. Yeah, so there you have it. She acknowledges what I was talking about, that it's going to break down by an hydrolysis reaction. If you actually go to her video, I'm going to try to find it for you guys so we look at the exact date of the video when she brought up the hydrolysis reaction. Give me one moment, all right, guys? Because I think it was like April. I need to go back and check it out, but I'm pretty sure it was April. Somewhere around that time. That wasn't that long ago. It was like 6 months ago or so. That comment that I made was over a year ago. Keep that in mind. Actually, here's something really important before I show this video. When we started talking about breaking down and dissolving, because this ties into the point that Hogtie made about it breaking down to its individual monomers or nucleotides, both myself and Fiona were incorrect on that statement. She denied that DNA would that it basically breaks, or when something is dissolving, it breaks up in some sort of way. All she would basically say was, no, it goes into solution. And that's something that we obviously both acknowledge. But when it came to the definition or how it's described in the dictionaries or in these different websites, and even a video that she actually sourced to me, that she gave me, it even described it as breaking apart into individual clusters, and that the ionic compounds, they basically break apart by the individual sodium chlorides that actually make it up. So that's actually something that's very, very important there. When we were talking about the dissolving thing, she actually got that wrong when we were talking about it, and I think we've been ignoring that for a long time anyways. I think that's a minor point, but I think that's important to note. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm searching through the videos right now so I can find. This wouldn't be it because these are the videos that are over a year ago. I'm pretty sure this is it. Okay, this is not the video. Give me 1 moment, guys. I want you guys to have access to this video too, if you guys can, because it's this video where she started talking about an hydrolysis reaction. This was 6 months ago. The comment that I put up was actually a year ago. What happened was that they admitted they were fighting me on this issue of it breaking down to its constituent parts. They turned it into a semantical game, and then afterwards, months later, they brought up the hydrolysis reaction. They were not originally talking about the hydrolysis reaction. I was, and then they backtracked when they realized that they weren't going anywhere. When we looked at the definitions, the descriptions of what it means for something to dissolve, they were proven wrong on that. It meant breaking down. It's just obviously not the same type of reaction. That's just a semantic game, guys. All right. Okay, here it is. This video was April 21st, 2016. Let me screen share this so that you guys can see it. April 21st, 2016. Comment I put up was over a year ago when I started talking about DNA breaking down to its constituent parts. I was the one who described it to them, an hydrolysis reaction. All you guys are doing by this point is you keep jumping back to the semantical game of dissolving and so on, and now you're trying to conflate it with the actual science, which, of course, I don't think anybody's going to actually disagree with you guys if you guys are going to actually stick with that the science, for the scientific reasons why things are, why you're having these different reactions, that's obviously very, evident. Monosaccharides, you'll release them to the complex of from complex carbohydrates. We all know this, and the hydrogen atoms and the other parts of the polymers, I guess you say that. They'll gain a hydroxyl group, and then you'll split the water. You'll have it basically split. If the different parts are ionized after the split, one will pretty much gain a hydrogen atom and a positive charge. So that's basically what you're going to be getting with the hydrolysis reaction. With like I mentioned, I mean, with things where they're dissolving, they break apart, but they break apart for different reasons. They won't all break apart the same way, like sugar or covalent compounds and salts. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really getting old already, and I think that you guys need to stop trying to mislead people You guys know that I'm right. Now, I know I have Fiona in the comment section here. She says, so no, I did not admit you were right. You are a dishonest and trustworthy individual. Yes, you did. You admitted that I was right 100%. DNA breaks down to its constituent parts. What was it that I said, Fiona? Let's go back to the actual comment that I said. Okay, let's look at the actual comment that I actually have said over a year ago. I'm going to put this back up on screen share. Okay. I don't want people to pay attention to this because what they keep on doing is they just keep on dodging and playing stupid. Well, when I'm talking about this breaking down to its constituent parts, I'm not referring to dissolving. I'm not even referring to dissolving. But I will say DNA does break apart as well within water, just not the way that I'm referring to. I'm talking about an hydrolysis reaction, which is different. But if you're just going to play semantics, this is me referring to somebody else in the comments. Technically, you are wrong because when something dissolves, it does come apart. So we're talking about things that are breaking apart. So again, reread what I said. Well, when I am talking about breaking down to its constituent parts, I am not referring to dissolving, but I will say DNA does break apart as well within water, just not the way that I'm referring. Let's go back, read Fiona's comment, post. Yes, it breaks down by hydrolysis reactions. I don't know how much more plain I can tell you. I'm referring to a hydrolysis reaction, but when I'm talking about breaking down to its constituent parts, I'm not referring to dissolving, but I will say that DNA does break apart as well within water. Just not the same way that I'm referring to because I'm talking about hydrolysis reaction. You acknowledge that, you disagree to what I was originally saying and talking about to begin with. And there is no way around that. That little situation that got brought up with the dissolving, where we were talking about things breaking down, you disagreed with that. You didn't even think that it would break apart or anything like that in the water. Not to say that it's going to break apart by the individual monomers, because when I said that, I was incorrect when I was referring to that in dissolving. You didn't think that it was even going to break apart to the individual clusters that made it up. You didn't think that breaking apart in any sort of way had anything to do with it. You didn't think that had anything to do with even the sodium chlorides that were actually brought up. When I started screen sharing those comments, you basically didn't even know what to say about it. You didn't know what to say at all. So with that particular situation, with how DNA was dissolving, what I was describing dang it. I don't know what happened, guys. It just dropped out. Can I add somebody in here? Okay, so I'm going to go back.